encourage you, be doers of the Word. I'm not absolutely sure of this. I have to say it that way because I want to qualify it. But I suspect that nobody in Anaheim tonight is going to get any benefit out of you and I sitting here these long hours unless one of you leaves here and starts doing something to them as a result of it. And that may not only be true for Anaheim, it might be true from the city that you came from. Until one of you starts doing something about what you've been hearing about this week, nothing much is going to happen in your community or to you. When I see the apostles, I see them in a learning climate. I see them looking at Jesus and saying, "Whoa, I'd like to do that. Boy, that looks great. The juice is flowing." I see them excited. I see them frightened. I see them confused. As I said last night, they come off half the time like the Three Stooges. Can't you see them? Manny, Mo, and Peter or somebody. And they don't know what's happening half the time. They don't understand the teaching. They don't understand the deeds. They don't understand His purpose. They're confused about the bread. They're confused about the wine. They're confused about the wind and the way. They don't know what's going on. But they loved hanging around Him. They just loved Him, didn't they? They liked what was happening. Sometimes they get all full of pride. They're trying to keep people away. One poor blind man, he had to practically he made a fool of himself trying to get in to see Jesus. And so finally he caught Jesus' attention. "Son of David!" he said. The apostles say, "Shut up! Shut that blind man up! Get that man! Get him!" That's the way they're coming off. And finally, the guy gets the Lord's attention. The Lord turns around and says, "Who's yelling at me?" And boy, butter wouldn't melt in their mouth. "Oh, the master wants to see you." Now, if that's not humanity at its worst, these guys brokered their relationship with Him. They're trying to keep the kids away from Jesus. Can you imagine? I mean, we always read, "Suffer the little children to come unto me." I think He said, "Suffer the little children to come unto me." I think He's talking to those guys and telling them off. Oh, wait a minute. He had to do that a number of times. He rebuked them on several occasions for their ineptness. Remember the time they were trying to cast the demons out of the boy and he came on them? I think he was totally incensed when he saw that. He said, "Will there even be faith on earth when the Son of Man comes back?" Now you say, "Well, Jesus never acted like that." I think He did. I don't think He sinned in it. But I think those guys understood that they weren't doing just what they should have been doing. And I think they spent many a night around the campfire talking about it. "Hey, did you see that thing today when he went?" And that guy said, "Huh?" And they said, "Yeah, but I was there when he went and spit in the mud and put it in the guy's eyes, Mud in his eyes? No kidding. Write that down. They all carried notebooks, right? And little cassette players. We better get serious. All right, let's continue. My basic thesis, Roman numeral 3, is the idea that they had to learn to do these things. Let's take one subject, like learning to cast out demons. In the 12, if you remember, were commissioned in the 9th chapter of Luke, verses 1 and 2. And when Jesus had called the 12 together, He gave them power and authority to drive out all demons and to cure diseases. And He sent them out to preach the kingdom of God and to heal the sick. Now, my basic understanding is that power and authority, dunamis and exousia, has to be coupled together. That we need the authorization to act as ambassadors of God. When you're operating as an ambassador of God, as an ambassador to anyone, any authority, You're operating within certain confines of the dictates of the policies and strategies and philosophies of the entity that has authorized you to act on their behalf. You're not operating independently. You can't just do anything you want to do. You can only do those things that your government and or the authority that has placed you there has set you there to do. I think it's the difference between a license to drive a car, say, or to be an engineer of a plane, or a train, excuse me. If you're an engineer of a train, you've got to run on certain schedules. You've got to maintain the tracks themselves. You've got to do lots of things within the regimen of that responsibility. Whereas many people today understand this business of the authorization, the authority of God, as something that's sort of a carte blanche thing in which you can just pretty much do whatever you want to do. In my opinion, I think we've been called to do one thing, the will of the Father. And that we're to do the will of the Father as the Father gives us inspiration, unction, and understanding to do it as it relates not only to the counsel of the Word, which I think is foundational and absolutely essential, but also the unction, the leading of the Spirit at the given moment. And so we need the authorization, but we also need the power. You know, you could have authority. You could be an ambassador, but you could be an ambassador of a weak country. A country that doesn't have a great deal of power. A country that's not going to back you up. In our case, we don't have that problem. We have been authorized by the King of Heaven, the God of glory, Creator of heaven and the earth, to do the will and the bidding of the Father. And we've been given all authority in heaven and earth to do that job. We've also been empowered. Now the problem today is that we have not properly received that power. We've received it on a theological plane. But it's the difference between something that's been propositionally given to you and something that you've actualized. You know, we could be doing, this week, we could be doing an exercise, I don't know, maybe a conference on skydiving or something. And we could teach you about the great skydivers of the past, the Old and the New Testament. We could tell you the laws of aerodynamics. We could show you the coastline. We could show you the great places in America and around the world to practice this. We could talk about the various airplanes that are helpful. We could learn to fold parachutes. We could do all the kinds of things that are involved with skydiving. And at a given point, we could bring you up here and file you across the stage and give you a certificate and say you're now a skydiver. Congratulations. You've graduated. And somebody might ask at some given point and say, well, when do we get in an airplane? It's all, you don't have to do that. It's enough to know that you can. See how preposterous that is? We've been called, people, to jump out of that plane. We've been called to do the will of the Father. It's not enough to know that someone did it once. You and I have to do it now. We've been called to do it now. We are the church of Jesus Christ on earth today. We have the present day ministry of Jesus Christ to perform. And it's going to take a certain amount of commitment and consecration on our part, a great deal of unction and blessing on His part, but we can do the job. We've been called to do it. And so we need authority and power. The apostles were given it, but they had to go out and exercise it. Now, I've never been in a conference like this that I didn't have someone come up, and it's already happened a few times. Somebody will walk up to me, and God bless them, they're sincere, and they really think that I can do this. They'll walk up and say, you know, I need more power. Will you pray for me? Now, they don't understand something. First of all, power doesn't come in that kind of a package. Power comes through exercise of what power you have. Now, this is a secret of the kingdom. I want you to know that. I've learned it the hard way. Power comes through the exercise of that you have. Now, you can be empowered at an event. The power of God can come upon you, and it will benefit you. It will give you a new largesse, an increase. It'll increase your boundaries. It'll increase your capacity to receive the Spirit. Keep in mind that we must be first partakers of the fruit. The husbandman must be first partakers of the fruit. If you're going to give something, you first have got to get some. And so the ability to receive from God is absolutely essential, and it qualifies that you can give. If you can't receive it, you can't give it very readily. Although from time to time, some of us have had the experience of being able to pray for people and see things happen that we hadn't received ourselves. I remember when Bob Fulton was on the staff in the early days, people were wanting to be prayed for the release of gifts.